Hello, I'm Ron Murray. After having done a video of all these shops on the main street of Cromwell, I decided then to do one of some of the shop interiors and the people who worked in the shops. The first building I photographed was the Dalgetty's Stock and Station Agent's shop in Cromwell. It used to be the old D.A. Jolly and Sons General Store. And this is the assistant there at the time, Maureen Butcher. It should be remembered that the demolition started in 1985, so that all these photographs were taken prior to 1985 or very early on in that year. Next we come to the panel beater shop with the panel beater Ron King. This garage used to be Congleton's service station garage many years ago, but at that particular time was used for panel beating and painting of motor cars. Then we come to the Cromwell Sports Centre, run by Alistair Stewart, who initially used to work at the Bank of New Zealand. Alistair opened a sports shop further up the street on the site of the old TAB building and what in the early days used to be Oran Borough's Painters Building. Next photograph is taken in the bar of Hotel Cromwell, which is the hotel closest to the bridge, and here the barman is Jim Girvin. This was a very old hotel which has been remodeled and redone up and given a number of names over a large number of years. But this photo tends to show what the bar looked like and the type of drinks that were sold. Further up the street we come to Wrights and NMA's shop, which was a stock agent, and here's Hugh Byers standing behind the counter. I thought it would be quite interesting for people to have a look at the inside of these various shops and offices, just to realise what they looked like in years to come. Then we come to the National Bank of New Zealand, with Catherine Hayes on the left, Dossie Hayes' daughter, Joy McNulty on the right, and the customer is Maury O'Connell. This was the part of the bank that had been built onto to allow room for the additional customers during the dam building. And in the rear you'll see a large painting done by Harrison Holloway looking down the main street. Then to the office of Mead and Stark, Chartered Accountants. This is Peter Mead at his desk. He was at that time, I think, also the Mayor of Cromwell. Another view taken inside that office, with Alistair Stark, the other partner, on the left-hand side, Helen Neal hiding her face behind some stationery and paper trays, and Margaret Wilson in the middle of the photograph. Margaret has left some years ago and is now working in Christchurch. Then go down the street to Beatty Service Station, and here's Alan Beatty under a car servicing it. Alan bought his service station from Stan Bell, who bought it from Ian Quigley, and over the years it has been through quite a number of hands, but initially started off as Congleton Service Station. Then to Alan Dick's grocery shop, almost adjacent to Dalgetty's stone building. This was a very old shop and had in actual fact been on the same site since the 1870s, when it was known as Victoria Store. When the place was demolished, Alan took a shop up in the mall and ran that for a year or two before going away. Then to the Cromwell Craft Shop Cooperative. Here several craft members made pottery, cane work, painted pictures, and any other thing that was homemade. They rented a house which used to be Mitchell and Scott's old grocery shop, and each week one member would run it on behalf of all the members. This shop has since been shifted up to the mall too. Then to the chemist shop, owned and operated by Robert Cox. As you can see, it's fairly well stocked, but in the very early days this was the old Bank of New Zealand. The chemist shop was a double-storey shop, and upstairs there were several rooms, and one of those, or two of those, were occupied by Dick O'Kane, the local dental surgeon. And here he is with his wife Barbara. And so we go down the street to the old building that I always knew as Joe Roberts' shop. Has been through quite a number of hands, and was eventually known as Criffles. Here's one of the persons who had been leasing for a short time. I think it was Ralph Sanders' son-in-law. And this is a nighttime view of the Golden Age Hotel. This photo was taken in August 1987, just a few weeks before the hotel was demolished. And here you can see the customers inside. And then to the Cromwell Post Office. Kath Gaffney on the left, Arnold Hancock in the middle, and a customer on the right hand side. Just don't know who he is. Just see if we can get around to see him a little bit better. And this is quite a historic shot. Bill Sanders in Ralph Sanders' old shop down the street. We now go further up the street to what used to be Wishart's Garage, and the person who rented it was Les Ritchie, and here he is servicing a truck. Les also sold petrol, and here he is pumping petrol into my old A40. Then a trip to the Cromwell Public Library, and here's the librarian, Jenny Forsyth. Then to the Cromwell shop selling babies' clothing, run by Mrs. Pierce. She was a bit shy about having a photograph taken, and you can only see just part of her face hiding behind some of the clothes. This shop was in Shive's old building next door to Mansour's draper's shop. Perhaps we should call this the Young Doctors. This was Jolly's grain store, which had been converted into a medical centre, and here's the nurse Kath Cowie, Nick Kagan, and Dr. Vorse. Now down to Lecky's Tea Rooms, which was adjoining the Cromwell Public Library, and here's a young girl, Melanie Wright, who was serving in the shop at that particular time. Let's go to another tea rooms. This is the Riverview Tea Rooms, almost directly opposite the Cromwell Post Office. I can remember when that was built, probably around about 25 years ago, and it's a fairly modern sort of a building. I don't know who the person is serving in the shop at that particular time, but for a number of years it was run by Percy Johnson, and then later on by Colin Holmes, and also Mrs. Bennett. And now to the Bank of New Zealand, which was directly adjoining Cox the Chemist. The teller there is young Sally Gray from Cromwell. Now further up the street to the Cromwell Power Board, and the person working the office end was Forrester Davidson. Here he is adjusting some of the goods that he has for sale. At the top of the town, next to the Victoria Hotel, and Gordon Stewart ran a hardware shop. It was in the shop we originally knew it as Eddie Hayes' workshop. This building was not demolished, but I've included it in the picture. This is Gordon here, standing alongside his counter. Part of the third grocery shop in Cromwell, Dave Stewart's, was initially started by the late Andy Ree. Peg and Jack Brown bought it out, sold to Hucklebridge, and Hucklebridge sold to the present owner at that particular time. It's been at the stage the photo was taken, the building had been enlarged quite considerably. Photograph of Graham Blackwood, who ran the Celtex garage, and here he is working on his antique car. The area where this garage is now forms part of the old Cromwell precinct, and has the old Jolly's grain store built on it, and also London House. Immediately opposite the chemist shop, Robert Cox had a small transportable building built, and his wife Roslyn sold Christian books on one part of it, and he had a photographic shop in the other selling films. And here's his assistant there, Tracy. Now let's have a look at the Cromwell telephone exchange. It was a manual exchange at the time this photograph was taken. Alan Perks is in the background. I don't know who the lady is in the foreground. I think she was lived in Bannockburn and was an exchange operator for a number of years. And then we come to the New Zealand Road Services bus office, which was in the site of Scott's Old Bakery, and here we see Alan Campbell, the driver, on the left, and Bill Munro, who ran the office, on the right. It's interesting to look at this photograph of Bill Munro in the same building, and if you go through the back of the office, there were the original baker's ovens there, been there for all those years. Then we'll have a look at Russell Anderson's jeweller's shop. It was also one of the shops in Shive's old building, adjacent to Mansour's drapery. This is quite a colourful print, really. Turned out probably as good as any of the ones I had taken. And quite a good photo of Maura Mansour, who worked in the draper's shop for many years. She was affectionately known as Auntie to all her customers. Then we go further up the street to the legal office of Broderick, Parcell and Howley, where I worked for a number of years. And this is a photo taken of me when I had fewer grey hairs. And this was a typist who worked in the office with me at that time, Jan Westergaard. She and her husband have since left Cromwell and settled in Western Australia. Further down the street, we come to the building concern of Cromwell and Southern Lakes Funerals and Builders Limited. And he's one of my old schoolmates, Dossie Hayes, who worked there all his life. His partner was Les Lindsay, the funeral director, and here he is standing alongside one of his items of stock. One of the well-known drapers in Cromwell over the years was Bruce Jackson. Bruce seemed to buy more stock than he could possibly put in the shop, and here he is with most of the display out on the footpath. Bruce died just several years after that photo was taken. And so back to the golden age, just a few days before it was closed down. And here you see the owner barman Bob Conley in the middle, Gordon Knox on the left, and the late Doug Wishart on the right. Although he did not operate a shop, it's probably interesting to have a look at this photograph of Harrison Holloway and a photo of the Cromwell War Memorial that he was painting for display. Harrison was a local farmer for many years, but also had an affinity for painting, and could turn out some quite good jobs. So that really concludes the portion of the the shop interiors and the people who worked in the shops at the time of demolition.